He said, pray as you see me pray. Utter these words that you hear me say. Based on the Sunnah, worship Him, just follow them.
Assalamu alaikum. New class coming to you every Monday and Wednesdays, taught by Ustad Layla Nashiba, the fiqh of prayer. Every Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Inshallah, we'll see you there. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers.
Wassalamu ala wa Rasulullah. Welcome to our series on how to pray from A to Z. This is our series on how to pray from A to Z. And we've been speaking about purification, the wudu, how to perform the wudu. We've talked about the pillars of the wudu. We spoke about the sunnahs of the wudu. Today, we're going to speak about things that may or may not nullify our wudu. We're going to talk about touching certain parts of the body or certain genders. We're going to speak about sleep. We're going to speak about supplication and things like that, and how they relate to the wudu. So with that said, let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen, because I promised that I'm not going to make the class long tonight, because I don't want to be on here all night either. I have things I like to do too. And I know some of you have to go to work. So let's get it together. Let me share the PowerPoint. Get my other computer up here. There it is. Inshallah, you guys should be able to see. Brother Edward. Yeah, I'm keeping it quick for you. Okay. So today we're going to speak about the sunnahs and invalidators of the wudu. I'm going to focus in on touching, sleeping, and supplication. And again, everything is based on authentic hadith. I am not teaching from a book of fiqh or any of that. I've taken this directly from the hadith books, okay? And I got the sources of all the hadiths there so that you can't come back and try to critique me. I don't like to be critiqued unless I'm being critiqued by people who should critique me. All right. So let's take a look-see. There we go. We're going to first address the issue that Brother Amir brought to us the other day. Remember when Brother Amir, at the end of the class, he asked me about what are there particular supplications that should be said while making wudu? Are there certain words of glorification because he was told that we should say this or that? Well, I told him to save that for today because I'm going to answer it. Brother Amir, mashallah, you're here. So let's address it, inshallah. There is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing, I repeat again, there is nothing confirmed by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding supplications during wudu, except this one hadith here. And this hadith is from Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. He said, I came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with water while he was making wudu. And I heard him saying, "O Allah, forgive my sins, make my residence spacious for me, and bless me in my provisions." So I asked him, I said, "O Prophet of Allah, I heard you supplicating, saying such and such." And the Prophet said, "Did I leave anything out from that supplication?" And that's the source. The source of the hadith is listed right there. Okay. What about supplication after wudu? This was the second question that the brother asked last week. Well, we have this hadith that's narrated by Umar. May Allah be pleased with him. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a person completes and perfectly performs the wudu and then says, I testify that there is no God except Allah, who has no partners, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and messenger, then the 8 gates, all 8 gates of paradise will open for him, and he may enter any of them that he wishes. And there's the source. The source is Muslim. Okay. Also, we have a hadith narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. And for those of you who are new to Islam, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, we need to talk about his story one day. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he was one of the top narrators of hadiths of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever makes wudu and says, glory be to you, Allah, and the praises be to you, and I bear witness that there is no God except you, and I ask your forgiveness, and I repent to you. Whoever says that after making wudu will have it written for him and placed on a tablet, which will not be broken until the day of judgment. And again, you know, the narrators of this hadith are all Sahih as well. And there's the source, Tabarani. Okay. Now, something I want to point out to you guys. When you read the hadith in An-Nasai, he has the wording, it will be stamped with a seal placed below the throne, and it will not be broken until the day of judgment. That's the wording that is used in his collection of hadiths about reciting this after making wudu. But there's the supplication that the brother Amir presented to us. The supplication that brother Amir presented to us last week was this one. Allah calls me to be from among the repentant and calls me to be from among the pure. This hadith is in the collection of Tirmidhi. But I tell you guys, you have to be careful with Dawood, Tirmidhi, and those others, except for Bukhari and Muslim, because 30%, some say 40%, 30% of the hadiths in Tirmidhi are not authentic. And this hadith is not authentic. Okay? Y'all understand that? We have to be careful. That's why I try to tell the new shahadas to stick with Bukhari and Muslim. 85% of the knowledge of Islam can be found in Bukhari alone. Okay, when you're dealing with those other books, you may come upon a hadith such as this one, and there's nothing authentic concerning this supplication. Take a screenshot of these hadiths. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Brother Amir, about supplicating while performing wudu and after. And by the way, these are sunans. These are sunans. What does that mean? That means you don't have to say any of this when you make wudu. You don't have to recite any of these supplications. These are sunans. Your wudu is accepted whether you recite any of these supplications or not. So don't get it twisted. What about praying the 2 rakats after wudu? Now, we heard about this hadith. This is the hadith from Abu Hurairah. May Allah be pleased with him. He said if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Bilal, this is after his night journey, and he asked him, he said, oh Bilal, what deed did you do in Islam was so great that I heard your footsteps ahead of mine in paradise? Bilal said, I can think of nothing except that after I make wudu during the night or day, I will then pray with that purification as much as Allah has decreed for me. And this hadith is authentic, Bukhari and Muslim. So that's where the 2 rakats came from. You don't have to do it. It's not a pillar of the wudu. In other words, if you don't make 2 rakats after wudu, that has nothing to do with anything. Your wudu is still accepted. But this is why people do it. We also have this hadith by Ibn Amir. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a person performs and perfects his wudu and prays 2 rakats with his heart and faces completely within his heart and face completely on his prayer, paradise becomes him. This hadith is authentic too. Sahih Muslim and others. Okay. So this is all showing the virtues of praying those 2 rakats after making wudu. But do you have to pray them? No. There's a difference between having to do something and doing something because it brings reward. And we have this hadith here, one of the clients of Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him. He said, I saw Uthman call for some water to make wudu with. He poured it from the pot into his right hand and washed it 3 times. He then put his right hand in the container and rinsed his mouth and nose and blew the water out. Then he washed his face 3 times. Then he followed by his arms up to the elbows. Then he washed his feet 3 times. And then he said, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam make wudu like this. And then he would say afterwards, whoever makes wudu like this and then prays 2 rakats without having any other concern on his mind, all his past sins will be forgiven. So that's the reward of the 2 rakats. You'll get all your past sins forgiven as long as you are not deliberately, intentionally indulging in any sinful acts. That means you have to be wearing a hijab, sisters. For my new shahadas here, whenever you read a hadith that brings about forgiveness of all your sins, it's conditional. It comes with the condition of as long as you are not deliberately disobeying Allah. So remind me to cut this. All right, so this is again the virtues of the 2 rakats. The virtues of the 2 rakats after making wudu is forgiveness of all your sins. But I want all the new shahadas to understand that forgiveness is only as long as you're not deliberately, intentionally disobeying Allah. If you're deliberately, intentionally doing something like not wearing hijab, not dressing correctly when you leave the house, none of this stuff applies. Because when we deliberately, intentionally disobey Allah, we have to go through the steps of making repentance, which is stopping the sin, feeling bad about the sin, and being determined to not do it again. Okay, but for those of us who are not intentionally, knowingly disobeying Allah, those 2 rakats will forgive you of your the mistakes that we make. What's an example of the mistakes, Sister Amy? Okay, yes. An example. Okay, I got the new shahadas here. Let me explain this. Okay, hold on. Okay, Amy, hold on. Let me make it bigger so you can see me. Okay, you're a new shahada, Amy. Let's say, for example, you go to work and the boss introduces himself to you and you shake his hand. After you get through shaking his hand, you come to class and you find out from me that it's haram for a woman to shake hands with a man who is not a mahram to her. So you would say, oh my God, I shook hands with my boss. I didn't know, Sister Layla. Well, those 2 rakats that you made when you after you made wudu, and also when you made wudu, because that's another one of the virtues of making wudu. Allah washes away the sins that you committed with your hands, the mistakes you did with your hands. You did not know that it's haram to shake hands with a man who's not a mahram. So Allah forgave you for that when you made wudu, and he also forgave you for that when you made those 2 rakats. So that's what's meant by the minor sins or the mistakes we make. Is that clear? For all the new shahadas, people in the Zoom room, is that clear for you guys too? Yeah. Everybody understand that? Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, thank you. She said, I broke that down to her good. Okay, thank you. All right. And that's any hadith that you read like that. Okay. All right. So this is something else I wanted to talk about. How many of you have been told that, in fact, I think Precious or somebody asked this question. Do I have to take off my rings when I make wudu? How many of you have been told that if you don't take off your rings, your wudu is not accepted? That's not true. Or how many of you have been told that you're supposed to wipe the back of your neck? The back of your neck is not part of the wudu. Or cover your eyes and all that. When there is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing, I repeat, these few narrations that mention these actions are not authentic, are not authentic, are not authentic. But if you want to do it just to make, out of cleanliness, then you can. But you can't say because I didn't remove my ring, my wudu is not accepted. Okay? Because removing the ring is not a part of the wudu. Wiping the back of the neck is an innovation. You shouldn't do that at all. Okay? Just like going between the fingers is a sunan, as we talked about last week. Washing between the toes is a sunan, as we talked about last week. Okay, well, removing the ring and all of that, taking my jewelry off. No, there's no authentic hadith that says you have to do that stuff. Okay, so I put that in there. What about this? This is a big question. You have fluid that comes from your penis, your vagina, or your anus, or air that comes from those places. Well, excretion includes urine, feces, and the releasing of gas from the anus. The anus. At anus. Anything that comes from your anus as gas, okay? Excretion would be something from your vagina. Prostatic fluid from the penis, urine from the vagina, urine from the penis. These are things that break the fast. Does everybody understand that? If I have to use the bathroom and I use the bathroom, I've broken my wudu. My fast. I've broken my wudu. Okay. If I pass gas from the anus, I've broken my wudu. Now, a lot of the sisters, brothers may not be aware of this. Let me make this a little larger for my new shahadas. Part of being a woman has two openings, bigger openings than men. Some women pass air from their vagina. That does not, I repeat, that does not break your wudu. The air has to come from the anus, not the vagina. Do you women understand that? I've never had that issue, but I know some of my clients used to have it. Sometimes they would sit down and they say, oh, air came out of my vaginas. Okay. I say, well, it didn't come out your anus, so we know we ain't got to take you to the bathroom to clean you up. I used to tell my clients that, okay? But if the air comes out your vagina, that does not break your wudu, okay? But if it comes out of your anus, it does. And I want the women, you brothers probably never heard of that, but the women know what I'm talking about because some women have that issue, okay? Don't worry about it, okay? Listen to what Abu Hurairah tells us, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah does not accept the prayer of a person who has released gas until he makes a new wudu. And then another person asked Abu Hurairah, what does it mean to release gas? He said, wind, or wind that comes out with a sound and wind that comes out without a sound. And it's from the anus, not the vagina, the anus. Everybody got that? So whether it makes a sound or not, if it's coming out of your anus, it breaks your wudu. Okay? Vagina's not that part. Okay? He also said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if one of you finds a disturbance in his stomach and you're not certain if you have released any gas or not, then you should not leave the mosque unless you hear its sound or smell its scent. And the air that comes out of a woman's vagina doesn't have a smell. So that's how, another reason too, we say that this is the anus, not the vagina. That air that comes out of a woman's vagina has no smell at all. It's nothing but, it really is nothing but air that some women have because of something that's inside their vagina. Okay? Which is a different class. Okay? But anyway, that's not passing gas. But if it's coming from your anus, that's different. Plus, that part of the body, the colon or whatever it is connected to the anus. It's not connected to the vagina anyway. So it wouldn't even we look at the physiology, the physio structure of the human body, that's connected to the anus. It's not connected to the vagina. Okay, so it's not the vagina for you sisters. Anus. Okay? So, if you're at the mosque and you're making salat and your stomach starts churning around, you know, that feeling that you get like you're getting ready to pass gas or have irritable bowel syndrome, you know, same feeling. But you don't know if you pass gas or not, as long as you didn't hear it come out or smell it, then you keep it moving. Literally, you keep on moving literally with the prayer. But if you smell something, okay, or you heard that sound, then your prayer is broken, your wudu is broken. Everybody got that? I'm trying to keep this clear for the new shahadas. What about prostatic fluid? Let's talk about this for a minute. Let me move this up. My new shahada, especially the women. Women suffer with this too. This is that, you know, something that we learn when we're in the 5th grade here in America. They don't teach this stuff overseas, from what I heard, in the Arab countries. We have sex education classes here. I've had to substitute a few of them, so I know what they teach. But anyway, what goes up? The laws of gravity must come down. The female body cleanses itself. This is why a lot of doctors will tell you Muslim women to be careful with a douche, because douches can dry out your vaginal path, because the female body cleanses itself, like we talked about today in our 6:30 class. Allah, he created everything with precision, and he created the female body to cleanse itself out. Okay, the female body cleanses itself daily. So that's why you sisters may have that wet stuff in your underwear. Okay, the women that are single, you're like, what is this in my underwear? That's your body cleansing itself out. For the women that are married, what goes up must come down. You know, spinning wheel, round and round. Hey, what song was that, T-But? Sammy Davis Jr. Y'all see, it just hits me. Sammy Davis Jr. He got that part right. The one I do. But anyway, he had a Rat Pack. You about up the same age I am, aren't you? To my Rat Pack. Yeah, that's the Rat Pack dude. What goes up comes down. So when you have relations with your husband, sisters, that's not a menses. That white stuff that be in your underwear, it might sometimes even be a white blob. I remember how it used to look. A white blob. That's coming down. That's your body cleansing itself. Okay? That would be considered, that would fall in this category of prostrate fluid too. That's not the menses. It's clear in color. And it's white and clear. Might be a little blob. You know. What do? You just wash your vagina and keep it moving. Wash your vagina, make wudu and keep it moving. You can use the body wipes. Use the cottonelle body wipes. Take that body wipe, wash your vagina, keep it moving. Make a wudu and keep it moving. That's Allah's way of the woman cleansing her body. And for the men, the same thing. If you brothers have a prostatic fluid, that's your way of cleansing your male productive area to keep the stuff running smoothly and fluently. That's the precision of Allah. Allah, He's the owner and the creator of all things. That's part of Tawheed ar-Rububiyah. Tawheed ar-Rububiyah. There's no defects in His creation. He created everything with precision. So if you are suffering with prostatic fluid, you just make wudu. You wash your penis and make wudu. For you sisters, the same thing. You got that wetness in your underwear or that little blob, get you some body wipes, wipe that vagina and make a wudu and keep it moving. Everybody got that real easy. Now, sperm is different. And if you have intercourse, if you're having sexual relations with your wife, with your husband, whenever the two private parts come together, that's when you have to take a ghusl. Masturbation. For the kids out there, masturbation, you have to take a ghusl. A wet dream. If you have a wet dream, an orgasm while you're asleep, you have to take a ghusl. But for the prostatic fluid, the way the body cleanses itself, that little wetness, or the little thing that come out the private part, that you simply wash it and make wudu. And there's the hadith and there's the source. Am I clear? Did I break that down for everybody good enough? Anybody in the Zoom room, did I explain that well?
Perfectly.
Okay, so that's the end of that. We got to talk about that type of stuff, but happens. Oh, I remember. I got a good memory. 30 years, but I still remember. Wait a minute, hold on. A question here. Go ahead. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I remember that. That's normal, sister. Yes, it's like yeah, I know the texture. We didn't have, let's not get into the details because it's kind of yucko. But yes, that's not a menses, sweetheart. It's clear, it's a little blob. Every woman gets it. You thought something was wrong with you. No, just wash your vagina. That's the way you clean yourself out. That's the body. Allah, Tawheed ar-Rububiyah. Precision in His creation. Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next thing. All right. Now, here's the other big question that one of the brothers asked last week. What about sleeping? Does sleep break the wudu? Now, if you're sitting up in a chair, like say I'm in this chair here and I fall asleep, then your wudu is not broken. Okay, and that's based on this here. Safwan ibn Asil, he said that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to order us when we were traveling to not take off our socks unless we were in post-sex impurity. Okay, because again, in other words, to not get too comfortable when we're traveling. Don't get too comfortable so you can hold your wudu. Remember, back then they didn't have water. They lived in the desert. They were traveling through the desert. Water was scarce. So rather than break your wudu, this is also before the verses of Tayammum came down. That's why you have to know the history of Islam. This command was before the verses of Tayammum were revealed, before Aisha radiallahu anha lost her bracelet. So the Prophet would tell them, don't get too comfortable when you're traveling. Keep your socks and stuff on, okay? So that way you don't fall asleep laying down, okay? So if you can sleep with your behind, your derriere on the floor or in a chair, then you don't need to make a wudu. And this is based on a hadith of Anas. He said that the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam were waiting for the delayed night prayer. They were waiting so long that their heads began to nod up and down due to their drowsiness. And then they would pray without making wudu because they were sitting up. So if you fall asleep sitting up, you're not in a deep sleep. I used to work third shift before I retired. I would never lay down on the couch like some of my coworkers would do. Because if you lay down on the couch, you're going into a deep sleep. You ain't going to hear nobody coming in and you're going to get busted on the job. And that's a 2-day suspension. Okay? So I made sure that I always sat in a chair like this. So if I did nod off, I was still conscious. I could hear if the door opened. I could hear if the phone rang. I could hear if a client got up in the middle of the night. Okay? And there's the source. This is Sahih Muslim. This is a Muslim hadith, so you know it's authentic. There's also other sources too. So here you can see they would wait until their heads would nod up and down, but they didn't make another wudu. Also, we have another hadith from another companion. He said, I have seen the companions of the Prophet sleeping to the extent that one could hear some of them snoring, but they would stand for prayer without making a new wudu. And that's because they were sitting. Y'all see that? Look at the sources. All of this is authentic. So if you fall asleep while sitting, then there's no need for a fresh new wudu. But what about this? Let's say you lose consciousness. Say I became unconscious. If you become unconscious due to falling out, due to faint, you become faint, you faint, or you're dizzy and you fall out, okay, or something like that, or you become drunk or insane, you have to make a new wudu then. Okay, if a person loses consciousness, then they have to make a new wudu. Is that clear? And that brings us to the final thing I'm going to speak about today. Touching a woman and touching your sexual organ. Does this break the wudu? Well, let's deal with your private part first. I want you guys to ponder this hadith. It's narrated by Bushra. She was the daughter of Safwan. She said that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever touches his private part cannot pray until he performs wudu. A lot of you, sister, asked me about your breasts. Well, the wording in Arabic is sexual organ. Your breast is not considered your sexual organ. Your vagina is. So touching the breast does not break your wudu. Touching your leg does not, but the sexual organ does. Okay? And there's the source. Bukhari included. Also, there's another narration of this hadith from Imam Ahmed. Whereas Bushra said that the Prophet said ablution or wudu is to be made by the one who touches his sexual organ. Okay? So if you touch your private part, you have to make a wudu. Everybody got that? Okay? Also, we have another authentic hadith. Whoever touches his sexual organ without any barrier between the hand and it must make wudu. So that's why when you guys ask me about taking a shower, say for example, you take a ghusl, a shower, with the purpose of praying. Do you have to make a wudu? No, as long as you do not touch your private part. If you're drying your private part with a towel, you're good to go. But if you touch your private part without that towel between it, you have to redo your wudu. So yes, I can go ahead and I'm taking a shower and then I'm done. I'm going to dry off with my towel. I'm going to use the towel to dry the private part. As long as I don't touch it with my hand, skin on skin, I'm good to go. Does everybody understand that? And that's based on these hadiths here. So take a screenshot because a lot of you asked me about that. Okay. Now, the big one. This is the question that caused one of my people to leave the website because some young blood thought he knew the dean better than Sheikh Morsi, who's a real scholar of the ulama. He was just a nobody. But anyway, here we go. The big question. Does touching a woman break your wudu? Does touching a woman even break your prayer? Well, Aisha radiallahu anha, she tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to kiss her while he was fasting. And he said kissing does not break the wudu, nor does it break the fast. Even though you got these brothers today telling you that it does. Okay? Also, Aisha tells us one night the Prophet had left her bed. So she went to look to see where he was. And she put her hand on the bottom of his feet and found that he was praying. He was saying, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge in your pleasure from your anger and your forgiveness from your punishment and you from you." So she had touched the Prophet while he was praying. And that did not break his prayer, nor did it break his wudu. So there's the proof that touching a woman does not break your wudu. That's why I tell you guys, be careful of these brothers who call themselves sheikh. And they're teaching you Islam. But you don't know that they're teaching you from a book of methabs. They're not teaching you like I'm doing from the authentic hadiths. They're using Imam Hanafi's methab book or Imam such and such's methab book, which is not even written by those imams. It's from the students of the students of the students of those imams. Okay? A woman does not break your prayer, nor does she break your wudu by touching you. But we know we have to learn the hadiths of Aisha. We have a lot of people that don't want to take knowledge from a woman. They think that we women are not even human. They think that something's wrong with us, that we're like a dog. We're on the same level as a rat, a skunk. This hadith is Sahih Muslim. Okay? A woman does not break your wudu or your prayer. This same brother had the nerve to say that if you in a grocery store and you accidentally, y'all remember that? He also said that if you accidentally touch a woman's hand while you giving her the money, you have to make wudu. He said that. And then when we asked him, where's his dalil, he got arrogant. And then when I called Sheikh Morsi, he had the nerve to argue with Sheikh Morsi. Okay? When here's they got these hadiths, and Sheikh Morsi gave him these hadiths. Aki, how can you say that? You're following a madhab. We don't care what no madhab says. Okay? Also, Aisha tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would kiss some of his wives and go and pray, and he would not make a wudu. Okay? She also, this is the big one that Sheikh Morsi got into it with that brother about. Aisha said, I would sleep in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with my feet in the direction of the Qibla. And when he made prostration, he would touch me and I would move my feet so he could prostrate. This hadith is Bukhari. So there's the evidence. A woman does not break your prayer by walking in front of you, by touching you, or even being in front of you, as Aisha was. And a woman doesn't break your wudu if she touches you, even if you're taking money from her and she's not a mahram. So I don't know where, this is why we have to be careful who we get our knowledge of Islam from. Islam is only based on two sources, the Quran and the authentic hadiths. And the authentic hadiths have sources showing you their authenticity. If you're going to teach Islam, you don't use fatwas written by somebody. You're going to teach from the Quran and the authentic hadiths. You're going to have to give the sources like I'm doing in all my classes. I give the sources for all my hadiths.